Hey, Chick Chatters! Welcome back. We are here with Love is Blind episode 9. And guess what? I totally forgot to tell you guys about Stacy's post that I was supposed to tell you about in the last episode about Johnny. So we're just going to throw it in here. Might as well. Anyways, yeah, so Stacy posts on Instagram, and she posted this today, actually, like 15 hours ago. So Sunday, whenever it premiered after the reunion. So we're filming this like the day after the reunion aired. And she says, I have anxiously been waiting in silence to address the context of where my frustration and anger comes from regarding Johnny. During and outside of filming, she bashed me as a person as well as my physical appearance. In the pods, she told my fellow castmates Izzy would never be happy with her. If that's what he wants, he's going to have bigger problems outside of here. Stacy is the safe choice. If Izzy chooses Stacy, he's going to be disappointed at reveal because she is not hot. Some of these things were said while I was in the room, and some were said to my friends behind my back, who in turn told me. I never once called her out or attacked her for doing these things because I was focused on my relationship and engagement with Izzy. At the barbecue, Milton, Johnny, and I were sitting together, and Milton said, "Man, Johnny, I don't remember Stacy from the pods, but we met in Mexico and she's super cool." Johnny scoffed and replied, "Not memorable, shocking," with a sarcastic tone, making me feel like I shouldn't be a memorable person. I had yet to reply to her in any negative manner, but she crossed my boundaries with that final remark, which is why you see me respond the way I do after she approached me with the deceitful comment. The comment I made about Johnny's face was because I was shocked that somebody who supposedly was Lydia's closest friend was acting like she believed Uche's awful accusations about her and finding humor in it. It felt like a betrayal of the friendships I knew were built in the pods, and while my reaction may not have been appropriate, I know I owe it to explain why I felt disturbed by that. It seems very ironic that I am being portrayed as a bully when in fact the actions of Johnny very much come across to me as antagonizing, for which I stood up for myself and others against. I strongly encourage anyone feeling attacked or belittled to stand up for themselves. Many of my fellow castmates witness all of which I am stating and have encouraged me to speak up. These cast members are, and she lists them.
And tags them?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 10 people she listed. 9 people. My bad. Look at me with all the misinformation.
So it's one thing to, say your piece, give your perspective, your dimension, but wow, the whole tagging thing.
A couple of these people, the people I don't know, commented and said, one person said, "Here for you." The other person said, "Love you, Stacey. You're phenomenal. You keep it real."
We saw Johnny do a lot of those things. I mean, at least in a mild way, briefly. So I'm not surprised, and I do believe what Stacey's saying. I still don't like what went down at the barbecue between all of them, but the tags, though, that's just wild.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We are back with Love is Blind episode 9, and we started up with Izzy and Stacey, and they're going to get their marriage license, and they are followed by Milton and Lydia, who are doing the same. So everybody's getting their license. And then the girls go dress shopping, and we see the extra girl there, Renee, and she's sitting next to Lydia and Stacy, and they just kind of acted like Lydia brought her. You know, Vanessa's like, "Who did you bring, Lydia?" And then they cut like this weird voiceover, like, "Renee." It's like, girl, we know Renee's there because
she's in white. There's an older woman sitting next to her who looks like she shares her DNA.
100%.
Maybe a mother.
There's just no way.
There could even be sisters behind her.
So Netflix is gaslighting us, but they want us to think that, you know, I wish that this kind of stuff would come up in the damn reunions. So then we also cut to the guys, and they're going shopping for suits, and it's just weird because they're just weirdly zoomed in. It's like a weird camera cut, and I assume then that means they're trying to just cut out Carter.
Yeah, so, totally. He must have been like sitting in the middle or something, which I don't know. I mean, they kept Renee in, but obviously they found a way to work her in. Carter, it seems like production had even more of an issue with Carter than they did with Renee. after the fact. So I have no idea, but dude wasn't in the picture and could not be shown in the picture. And as a result, we got these weird zoom in of faces. We never got like a full pan of even the place they were at. Everything was zoomed into the shirts and the ties. And like there was never like an open, like you could at least see with the women, the full room, the people looking at the bride trying on the dress. Like none of that was available for the men. It was all just like faces.
There's not really much. I mean, it's cute and everything. The only interesting thing is just that they are gaslighting us about Renee. But
I know, look at me. I'm like, I have tension in my neck. Every time I see this whole Renee thing go down, I'm annoyed and it's not fun anymore to watch. And I did think it was cute that Izzy's mom was there with the guys hanging out. Yeah. And she was talking to Milton, which I thought was really cute because I think Milton needs like maybe a little bit of like positive feminine energy. Not saying that his mom's not positive, but she seems really structured and she has taught like emotional reservation, obviously, to her kids. And he talks about that, you know, eventually, I think in this episode too. So I thought that it was cute that Milton had like an opportunity to see Izzy's mom because she's just so warm and sweet, and I think she gave him a little bit of advice. I didn't write it down though. But yeah, and then Lydia twerked in her dress and she cries about how she didn't know how bad she wanted to find her person, and I cackled because it's like, yes, you did know how bad you wanted to find your person. We all knew how bad because you cried for the first 4 episodes about how you wanted someone to love your soul, which good for you, but like you knew how bad you wanted this.
Yeah. So then after the suit shopping and the dress shopping, we go on a couple of dates. We get Stacy and Izzy, and they're going on this like plane date that he set up. Or he says that Love wants to fly first class, so he decided to get her like a military plane to go fly on. So I'm not sure if that's like first class, but it's definitely like A class. So
some kind of class. Yeah, I don't know what it was. Anyways, I also was wondering the first time I watched this if production paid for this escapade or if Izzy paid for this escapade. And the reason I was wondering was because Izzy was kind of not really like bragging in the
like he paid for it.
Well, he was definitely talking about like, I'm trying to provide the things that her family says that she needs. So I mean, he was alluding to providing that. So I was wondering, just, you know, because it's in the show. I mean, I know they pay for the weddings and their living situations and stuff. So I didn't know if this date was paid for by production or not, or if Izzy just did this all on his own. And if he did do it all on his own, I was wondering if he put it on a credit card. That was just the thought in my mind. So I'm just going to share that with you guys.
Yeah, it was kind of cool though. They did have like a romantic dinner set up, and I was wondering too, like, is this like Kardashian style, like where they're doing like these dinners and like these weird spots and stuff? Like, I don't know, like that's got to be expensive. You gotta like get a carrier out there. I'm sure that place doesn't just like do dinners all the time. It's a plain place. Like
no, and we're about to see another dinner kind of pop up in a situation later in the episode, kind of similarly. And I don't think that place does dinners. Like, yeah, I think you'd have to get a caterer and a bar situation and a waiter. Where do you cook the food? I don't know.
It seems like he got really close with Stacy's family. Like that's what they're mainly talking about, is how close he is with their family. Yeah. And it seems like he's only met them twice, but they have clicked a lot. And I guess he's really excited to really integrate with their family, which is something that we heard him say with Johnny, was that he's really most excited to take on somebody else's family and their traditions. That's what he's hoping with Stacy. And I think that he's really excited that her family seems to be welcoming him with open arms.
He says that they text with him often, so it seems like they're in communication a lot. And then he lets Stacy know that he didn't invite a lot of his own family. It seemed like because he was worried that they were gonna like judge him, or there might be drama or confusion about if it's like legit or not. So that made me feel kind of bad. I think, you know, you got to do what you got to do. You want your wedding day to be focused on you and your person, but that made me feel bad. And so I was happy that he had like lots of Stacy's family, and they're definitely supportive and they're definitely loud enough probably to feel, you know, like the room is full. So
yeah, they have this little couples dance with the planes. But
I was also wondering, like, how did they change their clothes?
They changed their clothes?
They did, because they went
Oh.
on that like airplane thing and they weren't in fancy clothes. And then I realized when they were dancing that they were in like well-pressed clothes, and her makeup and hair, I think, was even like refreshed.
Probably in one of the planes. You know what I was thinking about when they were dancing though? Like, did you notice that she was like weirdly talking about her dad?
You know, it sounded familiar, but I don't. What did she say exactly?
It's weird because it's like edited weird, so it doesn't give you like a full sentence, it seems. It's just kind of like, because she said two different things about her dad, and even Izzy was like, what? And she's like, never mind, nothing, da, da, da. And I'm like,
is this our first dance? At least my dad danced with me. Like, my dad would take a shot. Dance to the beat of my heart, baby. Strongest.
I missed my dad dance.
I missed my dad dance, and then I was like, my dad would. He's like, what?
What, Stacy? You have to explain yourself. Missed my dad dance? And then she like rubbed his head a little weird.
Was that just
Wow.
a horrible Netflix editing? I really hope it was. Like, I hope that she wasn't having a stroke just then. Like, what was that?
Yeah, it had to have been just like cut out. I don't know.
Why is no one bringing that up?
Why is no, like, again, we saw the reunion yesterday, and just so no one's holding their breath, this is not cleared up. Okay, so now that you have Stacy's Instagram, if she ever does one of those like ask me questions things,
You're like,
you need to ask, like, what the hell were you talking about?
Why did they even leave the audio for that? Like,
I know, they should have just played that stupid music over it. Probably the most exciting part of this whole episode.
so after the little weird dad dance situation, I don't know what was going on there, but we go to Milton, and he's meeting with his sister to talk about marrying Lydia and the differences between their families. So he's just talking to her about how Lydia is passionate and she's emotional, and you know, his family is generous, and she's like, we give, and he's like, but they're emotional, and she's like, well, we don't give emotions.
Again, I want to know like what was taught there, because there's obviously some sadness around that, or like something missing around that, but it also works out really well in public settings, especially during conflict. So I just want to be a fly on the wall. I want to learn like how did they come that way.
Their parents probably loved them, but they probably just weren't the most affectionate people. Like, my parents aren't really like super affectionate. They don't like hug me every day and like stuff like that. Like, you know, I kind of understand it in similar ways. Like, it's not like my mom would like cuddle with me all the time. Like, when I was really young, yeah, but like, you know, I see people whose parents are very touchy with them.
I spend the night at my mom's house at the age of 30. My mom will wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning so she can come slither herself into bed with me and snuggle.
Yeah,
And then she sniffs me, and I'm 30.
Some people have it like that. My parents have always given me like space and stuff.
Right.
Not that like it's like a bad thing.
Yeah, everyone's different.
I'm just not a very touchy person because of it. I think his family's maybe just like that, and I think they're also very career driven, so maybe they just really weren't around.
Especially if they were like relocating and moving for jobs and stuff, then there was probably loneliness involved anyways, and then to not have like a really close, like physical, affectionate. So yeah, I can see that.
I think it's like that because they don't seem like bad people or anything.
No,
like,
they seem like they all care about each other. That's why I just want to thank you.
Milton is going with his gut feeling, and that's Lydia. And he said that if anyone told him otherwise, he's basically going to do it anyways. Like, Milton was very firm.
I think that's what his sister actually needed to hear. Like, she was so unconvinced last episode, and he basically said, if you guys don't like this, I'm committed anyways. Like, this is my choice, and I'm sticking with it. I think that's almost what she needed to hear. Although she still was like, oh, you sound like it's a science experiment or whatever. But I think that's really the way he needed to say it. Like, he's the baby of the family. He needs to just kind of like man up and say, like, this is my choice, and I would appreciate it if you guys would show up to my wedding. Yeah. And she said, of course, we're going to be at your wedding.
He just says that he's just more analytical. He likes having somebody more vulnerable because it just helps him grow. Because he's not vulnerable. And I think that that's a good way to look at his relationship with Lydia, is that they're just very different in those ways so that they can help each other grow in those ways. Because Lydia also needs probably to learn how to relax sometimes.
Right. I wish he would express some appreciation of that to Lydia a little bit more. Yeah, sometimes I think he expresses more of his desire for Lydia to take in some of his habits, which I think is good. But I wish he would also just say, like, I appreciate your emotions.
She does ask if Lydia's taking his last name, and he said that that wasn't really an option. So,
and it wasn't. He said he doesn't believe in hyphens, which is funny because if you remember, Lydia's last name is hyphenated.
So Izzy and Stacy then are packing up, and it seems like things are really weird and awkward. Like they're not talking, and Stacy seems upset. It's just funny though, because Izzy brings out this big heap of clothes in this ball and puts it in the suitcase, and then tries to just flip it up. But I was like, is that smell thing that Stacy was talking about, that one episode where if only cameras could smell? Like, oh my goodness, what's in that ball?
And at first I was like, maybe this is why there's so much tension, because he's a slob? Like, I don't know.
It's a pokeball of clothes. It's crazy. Milton couldn't even defeat that thing. They talk about Izzy's bad credit because I guess, Stacy finally figured it out. Which, finally, I mean, Johnny mentioned it on the side like episodes ago. So I'm like, wow, Stacy's really just figuring this out. And I guess there's even a moment where they're in the car and she asks him about him having credit cards and he didn't tell her then. And she's like, I just wish you would have told me. I do think she's valid in being upset about that. This should have been a conversation in the pod. This should have always been a conversation in the pods.
Somewhere they said, I think it was on that Izzy interview that I listened to, but they give people like topics every day in the pods, like talk about children, like your stance on that, talk about finances and debt. And I guess literally finances and debt was the topic of the day. And so everybody, I mean, at least had an option. Obviously don't have to, but everybody had that on their mind in some way, shape, or form. And I'm guessing that's when that came up with Johnny. And my assumption would be maybe at that point, because Johnny was always Izzy's number one, that Izzy was just more honest with Johnny at that moment about his situation and didn't share as much with Stacy about his situation because he didn't think at the time that he was going to marry her. But then he needed to say, like, I don't know. It makes sense on both sides. Like, it makes sense why he might not have said anything in the pods because he wasn't really going with Stacy. Stacy was like his third option. I don't think that Stacy would respond well though to like, well, you are not on my mind, to be completely honest about, like, I think she'd be sensitive to that. He'd have to be like really careful. The thing is Izzy doesn't have any debt. He said that his debt is paid off. It just ruined his credit, and it was something like $3,500 or something, which, I'm definitely not going to shame him. It's not a lot of money, but if you don't have that and you don't have anyone that can help you with that, then it's certainly enough money to tank your credit. Honestly, having bad credit is not the worst thing in the world, and it seems like he's on the right path. His debt is paid off, and now he's just in a place where he can start rebuilding his credit, and he doesn't have any credit cards, probably because he got into trouble with them, and why would he have them, So yeah, it seems like he's at least learned his lesson, but Stacy's point this whole time has kind of been, at least she says, that she feels like he lied by omission, like at the gas station and things like that. There was definitely opportunities to bring it up. His whole thing was he wanted to have like a quote unquote sit down,
but then do it.
Right. And if you don't have time to do it, at least make it known, like, we have things we need to talk about as soon as possible. It seems like it really was just a couple of days before the wedding, and he was like, okay, I'm finally going to tell you about this. And again, a bad credit score I don't think is as big of a deal, but I can see why she feels like he lied by omission.
Like Stacey's not your average girl. She's worried about her first class. It's like her life flashed before her eyes, and she's like, am I gonna be flying coach? Am I gonna be like just getting flowers and going to Chipotle and getting weird plunger gifts like the rest of my life? Like, or am I gonna be doing what I'm doing now and swimming with dolphins and going to Greece?
And I'm not mad at Stacey for that. I mean, if that's what your life is, then that's what you've been doing. Like, I don't think you should compromise what your life standards are because you can afford it and someone else can't.
I noticed something with this season, just like I did with Ultimatum last season. They had this complex about like challenging each other. This season on Love is Blind, it's about fighting for each other. It just gave me flashbacks of like the whole, like, I need someone who challenges me. Like,
that was so annoying. I totally blocked that out of my memory.
And Lydia and Milton go to this like amazing rock mineral museum that I'm going to go to. It's in Houston. I looked it up. I'm going.
Take a picture like standing in the place where they had their dinner.
She's asking him things that he doesn't like about her. And I'm like, oh, I love when we start a dinner off with things we don't like about each other.
Well, she said, like, did you ever think of what you would want your future wife to be like? And he said, well, yeah, but it's different.
He says that Lydia wakes up upset sometimes, and she says there's a reason. And he's like, how in 30 seconds? Is there a reason?
You know what, Milton, if you wake up to a damn mess, then you wake up mad, okay?
And then she brings up his cleaning. And then Milton brings up how Lydia handles things. So, like, they're trying to kind of, like, tit for tat here a little bit. He's also trying to relay, like, he doesn't feel comfortable telling her sometimes when he disagrees with her or has something harder to tell her because of her being more emotional than him. He doesn't really want that to backfire on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of low-key backfires on him for a second here because she like walks off and like kind of cries and she's upset. You know, she says that this is the first time he said that to her. She didn't know that he wanted her to be like a more level-headed person. She like wants to be loved for who she is. Goal. Yeah, her goal is not to change her soul. She wants you to love her soul.
Yeah, so she's upset because she wants Milton to make more of an attempt to understand her. Lydia has said a lot to Milton that she appreciates the way that he deals with things, and she does want to try to be more like him. But I think she's also asking for him to give her some validation that like it's okay to be this way. And she even goes as far as to say, like, I've gotten this far in life, you know, being emotional, and even maybe sometimes because I'm this emotional. And that's probably true. I mean, everybody gets through life the way that they are. So, and she's been doing just fine. I think she has a point to that, and they really are just kind of different people. They deal with conflict obviously really differently. But I think the conversation, even though they were disagreeing, really went fine until I think Milton kind of lost his typical focus and control a little bit. And he said something about like, I don't like to argue or have disagreements with you. And she, being emotional, was like, well, you think I like to have them with you? And I think he kind of lost his focus because his response was, I don't know, maybe you do. They're coming from two different, you know, perspectives and planes and whatever, just trying to understand each other. I just wish Milton would try to understand a little bit more.
Lydia returns to dinner very quiet. Milton says he's sorry if he hurt her feelings, and Lydia says she's sorry that she doesn't abide by his expectations.
Those are not apologies.
She was just telling him, you know, like, this is who I am. You know, I'm a very emotional person. What my mind doesn't say, my face will say. And there's just no way around it. I am this way. I am 30. Hear me roar. I am who I am. When you hit 30, we are who we are. This is who we are for the most part. We might have subtle changes or like changes over time, but it's not going to be like drastic. Like the way you handle things is just completely different now. Like,
right. Her personality in that she's passionate and loud and opinionated and verbalizes those things, and if she doesn't, then it shows all over her face. Like none of that's going to change about her. That is who she is. Sometimes people take it a little far with the whole like take it or leave it sort of thing. Like Stacey and Izzy did that a lot to each other, even on this show, like take me or leave me. I think that there is and should be a lot of room in relationships, especially marriages, to make reasonable requests and compromise with your partner. I think that's part of a healthy partnership, expressing your needs, getting your needs met, having those things be reciprocated. All that feels good, but you should not, like, you can't ask your partner to change like their entire personality and things like that.
They exchange I love yous.
They're not going to come to any like major solution about this. I think it's good that they just said their piece and said that they love each other, and hopefully they both do.
They're never going to fully equal each other out, but I do think they will rub off on each other in some good ways that, you know, hopefully will last and work for them for a really long time. So that is episode 9, right?
Yeah. So we just have one left. It showed us the wedding teaser at the end of this episode. I'm not going to say too much about the wedding teaser because, as me and Anne said, we just watched the reunion and everything. So yeah, I don't want to make any projections because obviously we've seen it already. I wish I would have written them down before because I would have shared what my thoughts were. But yeah.
All right. Well, see you later, Chick
See you
Chatter.
later.
Me. Bye.